Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Channel 6 TV. We're going to talk a little sports tonight, and I brought in the guru of basketball here in Nelson County, 5th Region Hall of Fame basketball coach Minor Harmon, that been around basketball for quite some time, high school level, and also a guru somewhat on the college level as well. And we're going to talk, well, mainly going to talk college basketball today, as most everybody is done. They've got their brackets. Most of you are doing it online now because it's hard to find a good bracket to print out anymore, but we're printing a couple out, and Coach and I are going to talk a little bit about NCAA basketball right now. I hope you'll enjoy, and maybe you might have a pick or two as well. So, Coach, first of all, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here. And March Madness is a great time of the year.
That's when we get excited about basketball anyway.
That's right.
But you and I talked right before we went on there. It's a tough bracket to fill out.
Oh, it's very tough. There's several teams in there that's played really well at times this year and been very inconsistent at times. A couple of teams have dealt with injuries and they've got players back, and then there's one or two teams that's had the misfortune of having an injured player or two here lately that probably is not going to play in the tournament. Mm-hmm. And there's been some mid-majors that's won some big games this year against some pretty good competition that's in the tournament, so it's kind of hard to decide which team you're going to pick and maybe who's going to be the one that can pull an upset.
Well, before we even get into this, let's talk about two very inconsistent teams, and that's University of Kentucky and University of Louisville. Now, they've had some parts this year where they've looked like great teams, and they've had some games where both of these teams look like they just didn't even belong on the basketball court. So what's been have you seen this? You've seen a lot of UK and U of L basketball teams over the years, so I don't want to rate them, but where do you see them at right now? Are they ready for the tournament ready?
Well, of course, you have to give Patino and Calipari a lot of credit for their success over the years in tournament play, and I think they'll have both teams ready to play. Kentucky, 3 weeks ago, was so inconsistent, and they were getting down double digits to teams in the SEC that they shouldn't, and fortunately for them, they fought back, but I think the SEC tournament they played pretty consistent and maybe playing their best basketball of the year. But I've seen a lot of inconsistency in them all year long. As far as Louisville, they've been kind of up and down too. They've won some big games in the Yum Center and then gone on the road and lost to some teams that I thought they were better than. And they've been a little inconsistent here at the end of the year. They'll win a game, they'll lose a game, they'll win 2 games, then lose another game. And in fact, in the ACC tournament, they blew, I think it was a 12-point lead against Duke in the second half. So they've been a little inconsistent. But believe me, both those teams, if they're playing at the top of their game, they can go a long way in this tournament. Well,
as you said, it's tough to pick some. Like Kentucky takes on Northern Kentucky University. Never been in the NCAA before. Probably a gimme on that one. Now, if we get past that, though, I don't think there's hardly any gimmies out there. And like I said, I look over this, and then there's a few little Cinderella teams, but not much. About every team that's on this bracket deserves to be there.
It seems like the NCAA always finds a way to put another Kentucky school against either Louisville or Kentucky. And when I saw Northern Kentucky make the tournament, I said they'll either end up playing U of L or they'll end up playing Kentucky. And of course, Kentucky was the one that they ended up playing. But I think Louisville and Kentucky both got kind of a tough road to hoe. But I think they're both very capable if they play at the level that we've seen them play at different times this year.
Okay, well, Kentucky obviously in their bracket, they got UCLA, North Carolina, and you said there's a spoiler in there, possibly Middle Tennessee.
Middle Tennessee's been a team that last year, I think they were a 15th seed, and they beat a number 2 seed in Michigan State, and they've got most of that team back. And I look for them to beat Minnesota, and I think they have the capability of beating Butler, but I'll take Butler's experience in the NCAA tournament play over them. But Middle Tennessee is a team that can be a team that can pull some upsets.
Okay, then you got some of the others. I mean, Louisville's got Kansas in there. I saw Rhode Island play. Rhode Island, they impressed me just because I haven't watched them all year. I just saw them in one game of the year. They looked good in that game. Obviously, you can't pick a whole season off one game.
I tell you, a team that's trending up, as they say, is Iowa State. They won the Big 12 tournament this week, and an interesting win they had this year. They beat Kansas at Kansas, and so Iowa State, I think, is a team that's trending up, and in that bracket, Louisville's got to play maybe the hottest team in the tournament now in Michigan. Michigan went through that Big Ten and beat some teams they weren't supposed to. They kind of got a story behind them now with that near plane accident, and they're kind of riding the wave of the Big Ten championship and that near tragedy that they averted, and it seemed like they were kind of becoming a Cinderella team, even though it's Michigan. I think that'll be a very tough game for Louisville. Louisville playing at its best, though. I'll pick U of L in that game. And then Louisville's got to turn around probably and play Oregon, who probably is one of the tournament favorites here until just this past weekend. And I can't think of the young man's name, but they lost their pivot man, an outstanding player to an ACL injury. And Oregon has some good perimeter players, which will match up well with Louisville. But I think Louisville's inside game will carry them in that game. But I've got Louisville going out to the Elite Eight and playing Kansas in that Midwest region. And I haven't even put on my bracket yet who wins that game, because if the Louisville that I've seen play at a high level, sure they can beat Kansas. If it's the Louisville that's been a little inconsistent here in the latter part of the year, well, I think Kansas will win that one. But I'm going to make a pick here probably in just a minute. But and down there with Kentucky, they're looking at probably UCLA in that Sweet 16. And of course, I went to Lexington this year and watched them play in Rupp Arena. Marsh and I went, and wasn't any defense played. I think it was 97-92, and UCLA's got 5 kids that can score from all positions. I'm probably picking with my heart here. If Kentucky plays like they did in the SEC tournament, particularly on the defensive side of it, I think they can beat UCLA. I think their defense will be better, and UCLA doesn't play much defense at all. So I think Kentucky can win that one, and I've got Kentucky and North Carolina in that South region, and I can't decide who to pick. If I pick with my heart, I'd pick Kentucky.
Yeah.
But the thing about, even though they beat North Carolina once, it took Monk scoring 47 points to beat them in a 103-100, I think, shootout. And I think North Carolina's better. I think North Carolina's got the best talent in the country, but they've been a little inconsistent. But the thing that I remember about North Carolina, they went to the finals last year, and they got beat on the last-second shot. They got most of those kids back. If they're the competitors I think they are, they'll be on a mission to get back and win that thing this year. I think they're really the team to beat.
I think, and I agree with you 100% on that. Just a little bit, I know you're going to come from a coach's perspective, but just about every team that we talk about here that's rising has usually a veteran coach behind them. And so how important is that? I mean, obviously you need great players, but the coaching is about the most consistent part that you have to consider when you're looking at these teams.
Well, we've already talked about Kansas, which has got Bill Self, a veteran coach. U of L's got Rick Pitino, a veteran coach. North Carolina's got Roy Williams, a veteran coach. And of course, Kentucky's got John Calipari. Great players make great coaches, but those gentlemen over the years have proven that they can take the personnel they have and mold them into a team. On the other side of
that other side of the bracket really gets hairy. To me, it does anyway.
Yeah. Well, you got in the East there, and I guess this is the Kentucky coming out in me. I think Duke's got a relatively easy shot to get to the least 8. They're going to play Troy, which they should win that, and then I'm looking at them probably playing Marquette, and then in the Sweet 16 Baylor. And the only one I think could give them any problems is Baylor, and they're very athletic, but they play pretty inconsistent, and they're not very disciplined. So I think Duke's, I've got them going to the Elite 8 and playing Villanova, the defending champions. And Villanova's got an excellent team. They got some good perimeter players, but Duke's trending pretty high right now. Like I said, I'm not a Duke fan, but they were very impressive in the ACC tournament. They beat Louisville coming from 12 down. They beat North Carolina coming from 13 down, both in the second half, and then just beat a hot shooting Notre Dame team coming from 8 down in the last 7 or 8 minutes. So they're trending pretty high right now.
And once again, Mike Krzyzewski seems to find a way to win.
Coach K, in the modern era, probably one of the best all-time coaches in college basketball, and he even took it to the Olympic level. I think he's won 3 gold medals, and but I think, right now, if I had to pick somebody coming out of the East, I'd pick Duke, because it's awful hard to go back-to-back champions, and Nova's got a good team, but they don't have as good a post player as they had last year, and I think Duke will probably come out of the East and represent the East region. In the West, once again, Gonzaga is has an outstanding record, but how good are they?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to consider who they played this year.
Yeah, and they're down there with Arizona, and I've got Arizona and Gonzaga coming in the Elite Eight, and Arizona getting out of the West region, and that would mean Duke and Arizona in one game, and then I've got Kansas and U of L to pick from, and I got North Carolina and UK to pick from, and I've got to decide who I'm going to pick.
Well, 3 out of the 4 brackets you and I are very, very close on. I do have Florida coming out, and I don't know why. I just haven't. Maybe that's more of my heart because I've seen them play a couple times this year that they just seem to me have the potential to do something. And I've got Villanova getting beat early on and Baylor getting beat early on. So other than that, 3 out of 4 regions, you and I are very close, similar. And we didn't see these before we got in here today either.
No, we didn't. And I've gone on and marked North Carolina down because, as I said previously, you'd like to think they're a competitive team, and a lot of those guys were on that ball club last year, got beat at a buzzer beater by Villanova. I would think they'd be on a mission once this tournament started, and they've got the talent to do it. Even though I've got them in Kentucky in the Elite Eight, it took 47 points by Monk to win that other game against them, and I think that talent-wise, North Carolina's got a little bit more talent, a little more depth, especially inside. And Kansas and U of L, I think U of L's inconsistency may catch them in this game, and I think Kansas and North Carolina will come out of that other side, and that would be Kansas and North Carolina and Duke and Arizona, the 4 I would have in the Final Four. And if you're an ACC fan, I can see Duke and North Carolina playing in the finals. And I think they've played 3 times this year, and Duke's won twice. I think North Carolina's got the talent to win it all.
Well, I guess it's my heart more than anything. I put Kansas because I can't put North Carolina and Duke in that final square. Something about that just can't do it. And maybe I'm going with my heart rather than my head on this one. But again, it's a difficult task this year because it's going to be an interesting tournament. I think probably one of the most exciting tournaments I've seen in quite some time.
Well, I think it will be a very interesting tournament, and I was trying to look for somebody that might be a sleeper, but Iowa State out of the Big 12, as I said, just recently won that Big 12 tournament, and they're trending up. They've already beat Kansas once this year, as I mentioned, and that could be a sleeper. Everybody's talking about Michigan, but I think U of L will take care of them, even though Michigan's playing well and kind of surprised people when they won the Big Ten. UCLA, if it turns into a game in which they won't let you play defense, they call a lot of fouls, while UCLA's got the offensive firepower to go a long way. And as I said, when I saw them play in Rupp Arena back in December, that was a 97-92 game and very little defense played. I think Kentucky can beat them this time because Kentucky's defense is better. And if I was picking with my heart, I would pick Kentucky over North Carolina and take Kentucky all the way to the finals. And like my 2 grandsons, I saw their brackets yesterday, and they usually do better than me. They've got Kentucky winning it. So, and I would like to pick Kentucky, but I think picking with everything that I've seen this year, I think North Carolina.
Kentucky has a shot.
Can they have a shot? Oh, yes, they've definitely got a shot, and so's Louisville. And wouldn't that be something if Kentucky and Louisville played in the Final Four again? And that certainly would be interesting for this state, and the red and the blue flags would be waving that day if they played in the Final Four.
Absolutely. All right, before we get away, I know we're going to just wrap up the high school basketball year. We had the Nelson County Lady Cards went to state tournament, and first of all, congratulate them. Great season they had this year.
Oh, they had a tremendous season, kind of an interesting season.
Yeah, well, they had some changes.
Kind of like a reality show at one time there. They had a situation where they had to replace some coaches in the middle of the year, and some coaches decided to step down, and they brought in some new coaches, and everything, good players make good coaches, and they played really well. Of course, we did the games in the regional tournament over at Marion County. Really enjoyed doing that, and in the Roby Dome, and I got a chance to see Sis Roby and talk with her, and tell old stories, but they played exceptionally well to knock off E-Town, a defending regional champion. They'd won 3 regions in a row, E-Town, and looking for their 4th. And the Lady Cards just had a tremendous game that night. And what an exciting call we had. And I certainly enjoyed doing those games with you. And then, of course, when they got to the state tournament, it's a whole different ball game. And they're playing the best of the best, and they just didn't have a good game.
Well, and obviously they're playing in a college gym, and I think that makes a difference when you're not used to playing in a college gym, and it's so you sort of behind the 8 ball before you even get there. But again, they had a tremendous season. We really enjoyed following them this year in high school basketball all throughout the 5th region. I know it was interesting this year, boys and girls. So.
Well, the boys tournament starts this week. If I were looking at the state tournament, the boys, I know Bowling Green's pretty highly ranked, Scott County. Of course, you got your Fern Creek and Ballard out of Louisville. There's a team out of Northern Kentucky, Cooper, that's had an exceptional year. Hoptown's playing well. Those are some of the teams that come to mind with me as far as the boys tournament, and it's going on this week at Rupp Arena, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of fans going up there to that.
35 years of coaching, I know you say you don't miss it except when around tournament time.
Well, you probably can tell by riding to those regional tournament games as much as I talk basketball. You want to talk politics, and I'm wanting to talk Kentucky basketball, high school basketball. So usually this time of the year, the blood gets to pumping, and I enjoy this time of the year, especially March Madness and the high school games. And glad that we could do those games this time, Kenny, because that regional championship brought back some memories for me. Because Coach Barnes and I, David Barnes, and I had a little run there with the girls program back in the.
Well, you spent several. You went to state tournament several times back then.
Very fortunate. I had some young ladies that made Coach Barnes and I look like we knew what we were doing, and we went. In 84, 87, and 89, and 90. Yeah. So, brought back some good memories.
All right. Well, again, you North Carolina, Kansas, what I've got on mine. So, again, you all feel like your bracket. Everybody has a good time doing it. And one of the good things, it's on CBS this year, so no Dickie V for some of those of you that I personally like Dickie V, but I think I'm in a minority. But I like when he's around, but a lot of people like to tune it down when he's on. So.
He does a good job. He brings a little extra color to the game, I guess you'd say.
He gives me and my son, I got a son out in Colorado, and that's one of the things we can discuss. He doesn't want Dickie V, and I like him, so it gives us something to talk about during games. So, again, it's college basketball NCAA bracket time right now. March Madness, we hope you all enjoy it. And Coach Minor Harmon and myself, we always have a good time getting together every year and talking about what we think is going to happen. But again, as I think you've said it a million times, the game's not played on paper.
The game's not played on paper, and that's what makes it interesting. And my heart says Cats, but I think North Carolina and Duke will be in the finals. All
right, stick around, a lot more to come. Go Cats Cards. I don't even know what the Northern Kentucky's what they are, so I can't. Go Northern Kentucky. We're for all the Kentucky teams, so hopefully somebody will represent us well. You'll enjoy March Madness this year. Appreciate Coach Minor Harmon being here with us. Appreciate you tuning in. So stick around, a lot more to come here on Channel 6 TV. We'll be right back.